What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And this one is my team selection for Game Week 25. So I'm going to run you through how the team is looking for the next double game week, where I'm thinking about using my 2 free transfers, because I do now have a few issues in my team, what I'm going to do with Trent, and I'll quickly show you how I did in Game Week 24 as well. So let's get into it. So Game Week 24, I scored 120 points, which usually would be a decent game week. But for this double specifically, it wasn't even enough for a green arrow. I actually fell about 18,000 places to 209k, which is not ideal. And when that Everton versus Liverpool game finished last night, I did feel pretty rubbish about my game week, especially compared to the points that other people were posting. For example, Chris Wood owners, hat-trick, 17 points. He outscored all 3 of my forwards combined. Njai, João Pedro, Isak. Njai, yes, he got the goal against Leicester, but then he's picked up an injury last night. Hopefully he's okay, by the way, because he looked absolutely distraught when he went off. But that means I've brought in Calvert-Lewin. He's got an injury. I've now brought in Njai. He's got an injury as well. So that hasn't gone great. From an Arne Slot point of view, we were seconds away from having 2 wins. Tarkowski scores, and all of a sudden it's advantage David Moyes owners. And for what it's worth, I can split the 2, right? From a football perspective, I'm really glad that Everton scored that goal. Because if they hadn't and they'd lost the last Merseyside derby, they would never have been allowed to forget it. So I'm glad that Liverpool didn't win. But from an FPL point of view, it was quite a big swing of points. So that didn't go well either. Obviously, Trent picked up an injury, so he was on the bench last night. And Salah absolutely smashed it as my captain. But it didn't matter because I needed him to blank this week because so many people had him triple captain. So actually, any points that Salah got were negative for me. It pushed me more towards a red arrow. One learning thing for me, I will never use my triple captain in a single game week again. Unless FPL introduce so many chips that there just isn't enough doubles to use them in, I'm going to wait and save it for a double. Like, that is lesson learned. I've never used it in a single game week before. And obviously there is some hindsight bias there, because had I used it on Haaland versus Ipswich, I wouldn't be so worried. But I've never used it on a single game week. Anytime anyone's ever asked me, I always say I'm going to use it in a double. And I didn't do it this year. And by the way, I might not have even used it on Salah this week, but at least I'll be able to use it on a double game week in the future. So that is a lesson learned. As always, I think when you sleep on it, it doesn't feel so bad the next morning. So last night, that's how I was kind of feeling about the whole thing. This morning, I'm telling myself, okay, Slot's a little bit behind David Moyes, but there's still 2 game weeks to go of assistant manager. Slot might pick up 2 wins in game week 25, which would be nice. With the triple captain, okay, not great that I got absolutely smashed by anyone that used it on Salah this week compared to when I used it on Haaland against Southampton. But I only got a small red arrow, and now a lot of people have used their triple captainship. So hopefully we can push on in the future. So I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. Compared to what a lot of people did, 120 wasn't great, but it also wasn't an absolute disaster. I didn't fall massively behind. And hopefully with 2 free transfers going into Game Week 25, maybe a green arrow will be on the cards. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's about it. Mikalenko 7, Trent 7, Pickford 10. Very happy that I made the goalkeeper switch from David Raya. Otherwise, Palmer 6, Rogers 1, Gabriel 2, Mbeumo 2, Isak 2, João Pedro 1. João Pedro getting subbed at halftime as well. Not great. So it's one of those things with FPL. There'll be a lot of people looking at my score, I'm sure, thinking, I wish I had 120 points. But you always want a bit more. You could have always done something a bit better. And I did feel a bit deflated last night, but I feel a bit more positive this morning, as I usually do when I sleep at night. I never make any rash decisions with FPL. So let's talk about Game Week 25. So from a defensive point of view, things don't look too bad for Game Week 25. I've got Jordan Pickford in goal against Crystal Palace away, and on the bench it's Fabianski against Brentford at home. But obviously Areola's got the #1 shirt for West Ham at the moment, so there's no need to consider playing Fabianski. I do have 1.4 million in the bank. That would allow me to do Fabianski to Martinez from Aston Villa, increasing the number of double game week players that I've got this week. And although I don't necessarily expect a clean sheet against Liverpool, I think Ipswich at home and Liverpool at home is pretty decent overall. It's similar to what Pickford had in Game Week 24, where he scored a 10-pointer. Martinez is capable of doing something similar. So I'm tempted to do it. The fact that he blanks in 29, even if I don't free hit, doesn't matter, because I'd be selling Fabianski, not Pickford. And Pickford's got West Ham at home in Game Week 29, so I could just play him instead. I'm just not a big fan of having that much money wrapped up in goalkeepers. The only reason I'm not ruling the move out is because I'm probably going to wildcard in 30, 31 or 32. And if I do that, I don't have money wrapped up in goalkeepers for too long. and I've got 2 free transfers, so I could bring Martinez in. I just don't really see him as that useful afterwards. Like Chelsea at home in 26, Palace away, Brentford away after that, then the blank, then Brighton away in 30. It's not till you get to 31, 32 that Villa have good fixtures again. So it really would just be for the double. So I think I'm probably leaning more towards not doing it, but it is a slight temptation. In terms of the defenders, Gabriel easy, Leicester away, good chance of a clean sheet, good attacking potential as well. He's definitely getting played. Trent Alexander-Arnold obviously off the bench against Everton last night, but he did get 30 minutes. So as long as Slot is pretty positive about him in the press conference, I'm just going to hold on to him. It's worth saying, I think Slot said before the game that there was no chance Trent could have played. And I'm not sure 30 minutes is what they intended to use him for. But Conor Bradley was on a yellow card and he made a tackle that wasn't necessarily a second yellow card worthy. But as soon as he made that tackle, Slot took him off. He saw the potential for the red card. So that's why Trent got 30 minutes. But I think the fact that he played and didn't seem, uncomfortable, didn't seem injured or anything like that is pretty positive going into 25. And Bradley still hasn't started a match in the league apart from when Trent's been injured. So if he's fine going into Wolves at home, I'm probably just going to keep hold of him. Any doubts from Slot, and I may well just move to Van Dijk instead. But I think as it stands, I'm just going to play Trent. And then my third defender is Anderson for Fulham playing against Nottingham Forest at home, which I think is okay. Obviously, he's up against Chris Wood, so there's always that worry that Chris Wood's going to cause me double pain. I'm a non-owner, and he's going to wipe out my clean sheet. But I think on paper, it's an okay fixture. Anderson's got a bit of goal threat as well. It's Mikalenko on the bench. I don't want to double up on Everton defence this week, and Greaves against Villa away, so there's no point in playing him either. And the only defender I think I'm probably missing out with this week are Bournemouth. So Kirkes is obviously really popular, and probably Munoz as well. Everton at home. I'm really regretting selling him. I think it was a mistake. But I wouldn't necessarily have played him against Man United in game week 24 for that double-digit haul, but I would like to play him against Everton. So they're the 2 players that I'm missing, but I think I've just got to live with it. I think Anderson against Forest at home on paper is not too bad. So as it stands, maybe Fabianski to Martinez, maybe Trent to Van Dijk, but I suspect that I won't be making any defender transfers this week. So my midfield also looks pretty good this week. I've got Cole Palmer against Brighton away, who, by the way, has had another 90,000 transfers out this week. People really aren't happy about the level of returns recently. For me, it's just such an easy decision to now hold on to him. Southampton at home in 27, Leicester at home in 28. There is no way I'm going to sell him before that. Potentially, I could sell him in game week 29 when he plays Arsenal away to fund a move for Haaland. But that is a decision I just do not need to make right now. So Palmer definitely stays. I've already got Morgan Rogers in my team. Double game week against Ipswich and Liverpool at home. He's definitely staying. Salah is my captain, of course. Why not? He's had an absolutely ridiculous season. Wolves at home and Villa away is a great double. Hopefully, enough people have used their triple captain where Salah points will actually matter. But I fear that won't be the case. And anyone that's still got their triple captain is probably going to use it this week. So it's going to be another game week of hoping that Salah blanks, knowing full well that he definitely won't. And then in Burma's got West Ham away. I've had him for ages now. No plans to sell him anytime soon. The only time I'm going to consider getting rid of him is 1, if he gets injured, or 2, when I'm wildcarding. It might be that there's not a spot to keep in Burma. But until that happens, there's just no need to spend too much time thinking about it. The fixtures that Brentford have got are still pretty decent. I did find it funny, as I've already mentioned this week, all the hype around Brentford before Spurs, and then they lost 2-0. But on paper, West Ham away, Leicester away, Everton at home, Villa at home, next 4, looks pretty good. So he's definitely staying. The player that's causing me a little bit of concern is Eze, because in the last match against Man United away, Glasner said in his press conference that Eze wouldn't be available, and then he was on the bench and he came on and played 29 minutes. Now, I benched him, so it wasn't a problem, but I don't really want those doubts going forward. The other slight issue is, from what Glasner said, it seems to be like an ongoing issue. The thing that kept him out of the Man United game is something that he picked up against Arsenal in one of the cups, I believe, in December. So it has been going on a little while. The good thing about Eze is, when he's fit, he definitely plays. So I've got no concerns about that. But if Glasner puts more doubts in my mind about whether he can play against Everton, then I'm probably going to have to sell him. He's not that good that I have to keep hold of him. So basically, Glasner says in the press conference that he's fine, or doesn't mention him at all. I'm probably going to keep him because Everton at home is a pretty good fixture, even though I'm playing Pickford in goal. If there's any doubts, I'm probably just going to sell Eze. And rather than go for a punt on like a Rashford or a Marlon, I will probably just go straight to a Bournemouth midfielder. There are a couple of other considerations though. So if Watkins is ruled out, that will probably make me a little bit more tempted to go for Marlon and just get an extra double game weeker in. Also, Arsenal, their attack has kind of been decimated right now, and they've got hardly any options fit. So Saka's out, Martinelli is out, Havertz is out, I think pretty much for the season. Jesus is out for ages as well. It's quite likely now that Trossard is pretty much nailed at 6.8 million. It also means that Nwaneri at 4.5 million is also probably going to have to play quite a lot. Now, I don't know if these players are absolutely nailed to play 90 minutes every week. Arteta might come up with some weird thing that none of us have thought about, but they are really low on options, and they can't just go and buy someone because the January transfer window has shut. So moving Eze to Nwaneri would free up a lot of money, or just going to Trossard as a massive differential. But I think the main player I'm looking at is, of course, Bournemouth midfielders. So if Eze is ruled out or there's any doubts, I'm probably going to move to Kluivert, but I won't completely rule out a move for an Arsenal midfielder instead as a big differential. So my forward line is where the issues start to occur. So I've got João Pedro against Chelsea at home, who was subbed at half-time against Forest in game week 24 and didn't start in the FA Cup against Chelsea in what looked like a pretty full-strength team. And Ruta started instead and played really well. So there's doubts about whether João Pedro will even start against Chelsea. Njai is on the bench, yellow flagged, not been ruled out yet, but judging by his reaction to that injury against Liverpool last night, he's probably going to be out for a little while. So I'll wait and see what Moyes says in his press conference on Friday, but I'm expecting Njai to not be available. And then I've got Isak, who isn't a problem whatsoever. There is still part of me considering doing Isak to Watkins if Unai Emery gives Watkins the all clear. But with João Pedro and Njai in my team, I'm not sure I can justify that. So I think at this point in time, my intention is probably just to keep hold of Isak. I think it's very likely that I won't free hit in 29. And I think it's very likely that I will end up selling Isak eventually because I don't have much money wrapped up in him. But I think if I've got other issues to deal with the way Man City are playing at the moment, it's not a terrible fixture. Then you've got Forest at home. So I can just reassess when I might want to sell Isak. I'm just tempted by Watkins because of the double. Ipswich at home and Liverpool at home on paper is just better than Man City away. But Isak's playing so well, I'm not going to force the move. I'm not looking at it like I have to sell Isak. I'm just a bit tempted to do it because I like getting more double game week players. But I think with João Pedro doubts and Njai probably going to get ruled out, I've probably got to deal with them instead. Now, interestingly, if I do Eze to Nwaneri, which is not my kind of move, but Arsenal have got so many injuries, I might be able to talk myself into it. Also, bearing in mind that Arsenal will definitely play in 29. Yes, it's against Chelsea at home, but it's a guaranteed fixture. That puts 3.5 million in the bank, and that would allow me to do Njai, if he's completely ruled out, to Ollie Watkins for exact money. Now, I'm not going to make that move early. I need to wait for press conference information. There could be updates about Trent, Watkins, Eze, João Pedro, Njai. I can't make early moves, but if I get through to Friday night with all the information I need and Watkins is fit, then Eze to Nwaneri gives me money for Njai to Watkins, and I get to keep Isak as well. I don't know then what my plans would be for 29. I'm going to figure that out later. But getting that second double from Villa and also getting Nwaneri as a really cheap option who's probably going to get good minutes is quite nice. That would also allow me to bench João Pedro and just get a bit more information about him. Because if he starts against Chelsea, all of a sudden he's got Southampton in 26, and I'd be more confident of him playing that game, especially if he plays well against Chelsea. So because Njai is flagged, it makes more sense to sell him before João Pedro. For what it's worth, if there's a chance that Njai is just fully fit, I'd probably just sell João Pedro instead. But that is a move that I'm considering. If I keep Eze, because he's fit, then I've got 1.4 million in the bank as long as I don't get Martinez. That would let me do Njai to a 6.8 million forward. So realistically, it's Vissa. I don't think there's really anyone else. Like, put it this way, this is not a great time to be buying a forward. The options we've got are dwindling quite fast. Like, Chris Wood is great, but he's 7.1, so I can't get him in one move. And I just don't want to buy him now. I don't like the fixtures that are coming up. And I know I've missed all the points, and I'll probably continue to miss more. But I'm not going to buy him before Fulham away, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, City at home. So I'm ruling him out for now. Maybe I buy him in 29 for Ipswich away. I've already got Isak. Haaland is someone to wait for later on. Cunha at 6.8, I quite like. I just don't like buying him before Liverpool away. If it was 26, Bournemouth away, followed by Fulham at home, Everton at home, Southampton away, I'd be quite tempted. And if I was making the forward transfer in 26, I'd probably get Cunha. I just don't know how much sense it makes to buy him before Liverpool away. Watkins I've spoken about. Nicholas Jackson's out till April. Visser's good. Mateta's also a nice option, 7.3, but I can't do it in one move. So I feel like it's just got to be Visser. Havertz is ruled out. Delap for Ipswich. You know, Villa away in 25, Spurs at home, Man United away. It's not a bad run as a cheap option. Gakpo, I can't go to. I've got 3 Liverpool. That's about it. Like, everyone else is just rubbish or injured. Like that is basically all my options. I'm a little bit tempted to try and fund the Mateta move. The problem is he blanks in 29, so I'd have to deal with him then. But honestly, I'm looking at the fixtures that Palace have got, and I'm just thinking that he will score enough points over the next 4 weeks to warrant that extra transfer later compared to João Pedro and Njai. So there is part of me tempted to do it. I'm defensive midfield, easy. Forward line is tricky. I want to do the Wanyeri-Watkins move, but it doesn't feel like my kind of move. If I need to do Mateta and I need to free up 0.5, and if Eze's ruled out, that would just be Eze to Kluivert. And something like that. So, yeah, if Eze's out, I could do Wanyeri, then Watkins in, or I can just do Kluivert and Mateta. Both of those moves I quite like. So that's where I'm tempted to use my 2 free transfers. I'm open to taking hits this week if I need. Like if Trent is also ruled out, then I'll move him to Van Dijk. That will free up money. That could be an option as well. I think I need to wait for the press conferences tomorrow. Unfortunately, there's just not enough info right now to make a definitive decision. I looked at my suggested transfers on Hub, by the way. Really wants me to get an Arsenal player, but Timber in defence for Mikalenko. I'm just not sure it's worth doing at the moment. And I think it's probably going to suggest the same transfer now. So I don't see me doing Mikalenko to Timber. But if you want to check your suggested transfers, use the link in the description below for 7-day free trial and 30% off at the moment. So that's where I'm at. Arne Slot, assistant manager, is staying on this week, double game week. 26, I'll decide what to do. I may move him to someone else, but right now I'm unsure about that. That is a decision to make next week. Any decisions I can put off, I will. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I either bring Visser in one move for Njai or João Pedro, or I take a second transfer to free up money to get Mateta or Watkins. That's pretty much what I'm looking at. I wish I could be more decisive, but I need that info. So if you've enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and I'll be back early tomorrow for final thoughts. Then we'll have a deadline stream starting at 4:30 UK time, right up until the deadline, which is 6:30 PM UK time on Friday. So don't miss that. I'll catch you again soon.